Hello again, Boris. We have made a lot of progress with the material at school, and we are already talking about the wars for national unification, a complex topic, rich in facts. I have a few questions I would like to ask you.
You know very well that I will never refuse. I'm listening to your questions with interest.
Let's start with the League of the Balkans. Why was it formed at all?
Irina, it was impossible for the Balkan countries to fight independently against the Ottoman Empire. The empire had a population of 25 million. Bulgaria had a population of 4.5 million. The other Balkan countries were even smaller. Needless to mention the number of the armies, the equipment, and the combat experience. There was simply no other way for the war to be successful.
Well, how did they come to form the League?
Bulgaria started putting the foundations of the League in 1912 and took quick actions not to miss the moment, as the Ottoman Empire was in a hard situation. First, a treaty was signed with Serbia, then with Greece and Montenegro. The treaties did not clearly state how the territories would be distributed after the end of the war, which was a serious danger. A particular problem was Macedonia, which had two zones, disputed and undisputed. The undisputed one was going to be for Bulgaria, and the fate of the disputed one was going to be determined by the Russian emperor after the war. This issue was not discussed in depth with Greece, which also had interests in that territory.
From today's point of view, things were clear before the war, but it is not right to think so, because the real historians are trying to understand the spirit of the time they are writing about. How did this war end?
The League of the Balkans won the war, and the Ottoman Empire had to cede all territories west of the Media-Enus line, which, in fact, were almost all its Balkan possessions. Bulgaria's role was significant, as it participated with the largest army, and in March of 1913 Bulgaria conquered the fortress of Edrine, which was considered impregnable.
Oh, yes, I know about this victory, but I have another question. What were the consequences from the Second Balkan War for Bulgaria?
For Bulgaria, it ended with the Bucharest Peace Treaty of August 10, 1913. Bulgaria lost South Dobruja in favor of Romania. We got access to the Aegean Sea, but Eastern Thrace was ceded in favor of the Ottoman Empire. Macedonia, with both zones, was divided between Serbia and Greece. This unfortunate end marked the beginning of the first national crisis in our history.
Maybe it wasn't such a serious crisis. However, only 2 years later, Bulgaria entered the First World War on the side of the Entente.
To some extent, yes, and it was done as an attempt to finish what had been started. Bulgaria was again looking for the achievement of its national ideal. But Irina, our country chose the side of the Central Powers, not the Entente. The leading powers there were Germany and Austria-Hungary.
Oh, talking to you is so useful for me. How did the military actions develop until 1918?
Excellent, because in 1915 Bulgaria defeated the Serbs, and in 1916 we took successful actions against the Russians and the Romanians in Dobruja. It is worth mentioning that we operated together with our allies on these fronts. Things were different on Thessaloniki or Macedonian fronts. We waged a trench warfare there. The conditions were difficult for Bulgaria, but our soldiers resisted heroically. The defense of the Doiran positions by General Vladimir Vazov and his soldiers was remarkable, an example of strategy, heroism, and endurance.
But in the end, we lost the war. Somehow we were defeated again, but without being defeated, right?
That's right, General Stefan Toshev said it. After the breakthrough at Dubropole in September 1918, our destiny was clear. The armistice of Thessalonica was hard, but it put an end to the fights. Now, you will tell me about the Treaty of Nyoy.
Of course. It was signed on the 27th of November 1919, and according to its clauses, Bulgaria had to pay huge compensations. We were deprived of access to the Aegean Sea and the western outlands. We were also forbidden to maintain a large regular army.
Unfortunately, it was so. Certainly, war is terrible, and in the 20th century it was a major means of solving international problems. In all wars, our army fought bravely for its territories and for the liberation of our brothers outside the borders of our homeland, which, to some extent, justified its actions.
Thanks again for this conversation. I managed to revise the important facts once again.